Welcome to Prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear, where integrative oncology meets holistic healing. This podcast is your home for the latest in innovation, exploration, and elevation in all areas of integrative oncology, medicine, health, wellness, and beyond. Join me and a host of other innovators as we go from practicing to prescribing. Your daily dose of wellness begins now. I am back. You can't keep a good thing down, can you? So take a little bit of time off from the podcasting, but I'm back, and we're going to be bigger and better than ever. So I wanted to kind of start this new podcast off with just kind of filling you in a little bit with what's happened. I think it's important to understand because we took a hiatus. We had a good thing going, but with every door that closes, many other doors open up. And so I'm really excited about where we're going with this podcast. And I'll talk about the name, the change, and the situations that brought things to the change. And it's all good. But I wanted to kind of go through that with you because I think this is important. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Nathan Goodyear. I had a podcast called Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear podcast. It was a true labor of love. Loved what I did with it. Loved what we did engaging with you. Loved the people we met. Loved the new information we were able to bring forth, the relationships, and I still maintain many of those today. How did that start? How did that podcast start? Well, I can't forget the year was, I think it was 2022. I was actually speaking at a conference in Florida and went really well as it does all the time because I love to speak. I love to teach. That's what the word doctor means in Latin. Dossier means teacher. And so where I was at the time was medical director at a clinic. And they came to me, the owner and CEO came to me. They said, you know what? We feel that the Lord has anointed you in this calling. And so we want to know where he's calling you now. And I said, teaching, healing casting. Because podcasting is a platform that allows you to be free. It allows you to speak your mind outside of the central controlled narrative. And I said, we need to have a presence in podcasting. And I've long been called to be in that arena. They said, great, let's do that together. We want to be a part of that. So that's what I set forth on doing at that point, was to build the podcast, Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear. Good friend of mine, Andres, helped us to start that. We built it into something that was very strong, developed a nice brand, great message. And I think we really touched some lives and we made a difference. We made a difference and actually lost a piece of me when we lost that. But it's because the good Lord knew we were about to do something better. So why did it end? Well, I think it ended Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear because there was a misalignment. There was another meeting I had with the owner and CEO who was very specific. And I said, understand that when people follow brands, they follow people. Social media means social with people. And so I said, understand that if we build a platform based on Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear, that people are going to be attracted to that. And it will definitely serve the practice where, again, I was medical director leading some great doctors, amazing nurses, and touched many patients' lives. And I said, understand that personal brand could overcome, in terms of popularity, the business brand. And they're like, oh yeah, we're all great for that. We're good with that. You bet. In fact, the owner was quite on board with that. I made sure that they were definitely in the know of that. And I even talked about how understand even Nike and other businesses, they will pay athletes to be the spokesperson for their brands because people want to follow people. We want to engage with people. Businesses, but people, we want to be a part of relationships. And so what happened as the Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear podcast started to grow and become something that was powerful and actually affecting people's lives and having them come into the practice, there were some people that said that they were okay with it, and then they weren't. They weren't comfortable with being the first seat. But it was never about who was in first seat or who was in second seat. It was about working together as a team. It's like a football team. Here we are in college football season now. It's like the quarterback saying, no, it's all about me. And then the 5 offensive linemen say, oh, really? Let's see how that goes when we just decide not to block and you get crushed. It's about a team working together. But unless you've ever been involved in a team concept, you don't know how the pieces work together. And it's only by the pieces working together, the team comes together, that they can score a touchdown and they can win a game. It's not about one over the other, but it's just about recognizing each role. Now, a quarterback is going to have a more high profile position, right? Maybe compared to, the left guard or center, but they all understand that together they serve a greater purpose. So as we went through this journey of practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear, what I would say is it's the analogy of this. I was on the right journey, but as I've heard, I was just in the wrong boat. And so what happened is we became misaligned. And I discovered that the boat only had a certain longevity to it. And so I stepped out as medical director where I was. And I stepped out without a plan, but I knew that it's what I was supposed to do. And I loved what I do. I loved the people I worked with. I loved the doctors. I loved the nurses. And more importantly, I loved the patients. There are those that speak of innovation. There are those that speak of being cutting edge. There are those that claim to be the best in words. You can put them on, social media. You can put it on letterhead, or you can put it on, whatever, website. You can claim to be the best. But what do words mean? See, words are just words. They're powerful. They can be a double-edged sword. Bible talks about that. But words on the wall reflect nothing of the heart. They reflect nothing of action. See, action is different from words. Action is and are words in motion. Because words on themselves don't negate effect. It's the action that comes from them. And that really is a reflection of the heart. So words on the wall ring hollow without heart. That it doesn't equate to action. So as I stepped away from that, it was a door closing. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. We helped many people. But then almost within weeks to months, other doors started to open. Relationships had been in place that were going to bear fruit. One of the things that I had mentioned a lot during that podcast, Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear podcast, was what drove me as a practitioner is what I wanted to use in that podcast. There were principles that I thought were important to replicate in patients so that the patients could be empowered, but also in doctors so that they could empower more patients. I always said it's great to be able to heal 30 patients, but what if you teach 30 doctors to heal 30 patients? Now it becomes exponential. Those objectives, those purposes were hope, heal, teach, serve, truth, trust, legacy. See, in the arena of cancer care, which is a lot of what I've done over the last, 3 to 4 years of practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear podcast, the last 7 to 8 as a medical director, it showed me that integrative cancer care and cancer care as a whole doesn't do much for hope. Hope literally just means confidence in tomorrow. Our job is to build out what that confidence looks like. Heal. I don't see a lot of healing out there. The word physician in Hebrew, Raphae, means literally healer. Our job is to heal as he who came before us and said, I did not come to be served, but to serve. And he did that through healing in many cases. Teach. That is a Latin word for doctor. Docere means teacher. I mentioned already serve. We physicians don't serve ourselves. We don't serve an industry. We don't serve the practice of medicine. We serve patients. And we can only do that through trust. We must build trust with our patients. And we do that through truth. We speak truth honestly, lovingly, and with hope. Because simply giving somebody hope, confidence in tomorrow, doesn't mean you're giving them false hope. It just means there's confidence that tomorrow exists, because it's Wednesday right now where I am recording this. I have great confidence that Thursday will come. Now, whether I'm a part of it on this planet or not, that's yet to be determined. I hope it is, and I'm sure my wife hopes it is. But our job is to build out what that looks like, legacy. Everybody focuses on longevity, but legacy is that word that literally means to empower a movement, a mission, but not one that just affects the current generation, but generations to come. And I like to focus on that at a macro level, but we'll talk about that in another podcast. And the word, practicing, it's really kind of I think it's a reflection of where a lot of medicine's gone wrong and where that relationship that led to the Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear podcast went wrong. It's a Latin word, practicare, which means to perform, to carry out, fit for action. A lot of it was an inward reflection, focusing on the actions of medicine, on the actions of being a physician. Now, those are necessary because out of that comes the practice, but it was an inward reflection. But a servant is not an inward servant. A servant, one who gives hope, one who heals, one who teaches, one who builds trust, and one who builds a legacy, that is an outward expression. So I was trying to figure out, what am I going to call the podcast? What am I going to call the new podcast? Because I couldn't use Practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear, because that's the past. That's the past. We got to being called to do something new. So thought, instead of reflecting inward, what if we reflect this outward? And so try to reframe what was Practicing Dr. Nathan Goodyear, one that is more reflective of the hope, the heal, the teach, the serve, the truth, the trust, the legacy for those who listen, patients and other doctors and practitioners. And so that outward expression, I think, is best aligned with the word prescribed, because though prescribed is the prescription, the focus is on whom? You're prescribing for others, as you're serving others, as you're healing others, as you're teaching others, as you're building trust and truth with others, and as you're building a legacy for others. So the consistent of the practice and philosophy is taking a next generation here, and that's going from practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear to prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear. And now I'm in the right boat, got the right crew around me. We're still on the same journey, but we've jumped into a different boat that's going to allow us, I think, to achieve that which we've called to achieve. And understand, it's about you. It's about your ultimate success, whether that be as a patient in preventing disease or a patient of rediscovering wellness and eliminating yourself of disease, or just simply empowering yourself with knowledge, and you as a practitioner become the practitioner that you're called to be. Your first love. We as physicians are advocates for patients and patients alone. We are not advocates for profits. We are not advocates for power. We're advocates for patient and patients. So I wouldn't call it necessarily a change in philosophy or an evolution change. I would just say it's one of realignment, and realignment with others that are aligned with equal yoke. 53 years old now. I was walking into the office here in Beverly Hills this morning and was talking with my brand director. And I said, was talking about, emotion and talking about not reading too much into things and and not being involved in drama. Talk is talk. To walk is difficult to walk. There are many that like to talk the talk. And people talk about podcasting. That's easy. I can do that. I can jump in front of a camera. I can, just start opening my mouth and talking. But understanding the purpose of that talk requires a lot of walking, a lot of research that works behind that, a lot of time, hours researching and putting together the structure in which you're going to create that podcast. It's not just something that you do. Now, there are some that do it better than others for sure, but it requires work. And sometimes all the training in the world won't make somebody that can't talk a talk walk anymore. Words are easy. Action takes a lot more difficult. So we're going to be pivoting here to, I think, what is the right objective, the right direction, off the wrong ship. The direction's on you. The service is for you. It's to empower you, again, as a patient, as a family member, as a human. It's going to empower you as a doctor. But understand, because of the freedom that I now have in the prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear instead of practicing, I'll be able to actually step outside of just medicine. Dare I say we touch on challenging topics such as, may I say, faith and politics, environment, relationships, as they deem necessary, I think, to help all of us. We must focus on our purpose. Because when we reach an age, we start to discover we have less time available to achieve that purpose. A calling is not one that we take on. It's one that really has been present since time began. And we all have a purpose. We all have a calling in our life. It's just whether we choose to accept it, or fear can get in the way. Greed can get in the way. Pride can get in the way. So what we got to do is get away from the advocacy confusion, get away from the profits over patients, the power over patients, get away from the pride over patients, and just simply focus on patients. So that's been the gap between practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear and prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear. But it's an opportunity for perspective. It's been an opportunity for reflection. Been blessed since then. Hard times, but been blessed. Had the opportunity to reconnect with a fellow medical student of mine in medical school, Dr. Jason Williams. We reconnected and been working with him now for about 4 months and having an absolute ball. And so what has been the past has now set the stage for the future. But the whole PO, teach, serve, truth, trust, legacy takes me into the next phase that is going to drive prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear. And that is innovation, elevation, and empowerment. Cancer and disease for that general, but let's focus on cancer. Cancer is constantly evolving. It's constantly mutating. It doesn't rest on what it's done. It's constantly doing something new, invading, growing, spreading, mutating. So if cancer is doing that, why should we as practitioners, we as researchers, rest on our laurels, our past successes? And trust me, there's been plenty. I've been a part of many past successes at the helm of a medical director of 2 different medical practices. But when it's said that we need to actually now focus on maintaining certain profits to maintain a livelihood and sacrifice innovation because of that, I won't be a part of that. Innovation requires challenging everything that we know and saying, yes, what we did yesterday was successful, but tomorrow we must be better. You win a game 50-0, that's great. But if you don't bring your A game that next time, you're going to get your butt handed to you. And as a practitioner, when a patient walks in my office, I better be bringing my A+ game every time. Because if not, that patient's life is in my hand. I don't care how much money you want in your pocket. I don't care what kind of vehicle you need to drive. I don't care what kind of bike you need to ride or trailer you need to put your hitch to. Bring the A game for the patients. That's for all you practitioners. And so innovation means not just relationships, but it means new ideas. It means new discoveries. It brings new challenges too, but it's only through those hardships and those challenges that great ideas and great things coming. And let me tell you what we have right now. The next generation of cancer care, it's here. It's here. It's just not everywhere, but it's here. So you need to stay tuned to that, because we're going to be talking a lot about that. Elevation. We think about elevation. We think elevation in terms of awareness. And partly that's true, but we need to elevate the practice of medicine. We need to increase what we're doing for our patients, value, benefits, quality, as we elevate the patient experience. See, the way cancer care has been over the last 100+ years, it's been, surgery, chemo, radiation, and this going to war on mentality, because, Nixon declared war on cancer in 1971. The only disease that has been war declared on, and by the way, there's been no peace treaty, so war perpetuates war. So that's, 1971, here's 2024. It's a lot of years of war, a lot of deaths, a lot of collateral damage. What's been the quality of life? What if we could actually, instead of saying, well, let's try to get through the treatment to see if we can then recover life, what if we actually did that at the same time? What if we said, let's treat, but then improve your quality of life as you go through treatment? You begin to thrive as you survive. That's not been the strategy. So we've got to elevate what we provide in cancer care. We got to elevate the experience and the quality of that cancer care. And then we have to empower. The historical standard of medicine has been the autocratic, the doctor speaking down to the patient. That's no more. The doctor and the patient are steering that ship together. And that's the empowerment. That, honestly, that was one of the big underlying driving forces behind practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear. It was empowering people, because when patients are empowered, they are the force multiplier of change. They're the tip of the spear, and they're going to change where that spear either hits the bullseye or doesn't. Because the practice of medicine, the system of medicine, it's for patients. At least that's what it's supposed to be. So innovation, elevation, and power. It's all about the patients, but it's also about the doctors, because if we have more doctors that innovate, we have more doctors that elevate, we have more doctors that empower other doctors, guess who benefits? Patients, patients, patients. And that's what it's about. It's about the patients. And so if you're a doctor, a practitioner, and you're in the boat on the journey, and you just happen to discover you're in the wrong boat, you can jump out like I did. There'll be a life preserver there. And you know what? There'll be another boat that comes along. And then you can get in that boat with those that are more aligned with you to serve that purpose that you were called to serve. So that's where we're going. It's going to be new faces. There's going to be some old faces. We'll regroup with some of my dear friends that I've had the pleasure of developing relationships with since practicing with Dr. Nathan Goodyear. But you're going to see some new faces and some new names. And out of that, we'll all get some new relationships. That's already happening. And already I'm seeing the blessings because of that. Now we'll try to break up the podcast a little bit different here. We'll have some shorter podcasts where it's just me, going off on various topics. And again, I'm not going to shy away from particular topics. I'm not going to be asked to not talk about a topic because it might ruffle feathers. I'm going to talk about a topic that I feel is important that we talk about as it relates to medicine, the practice for patients. And again, it's going to be in medicine, but it could step outside of medicine. So the shackles are off. The freedom is present to speak. And I'm not going to leave that shackled. Because when we're called to speak, I think we're called to share that with respect. We're share that with love, but I think we're called to share it. And we're going to also, so in those 30-minute or so solo shorts of podcasts, they'll be topic driven. They could be in the news driven as well. But then we'll also engage with other experts in a variety of fields. And those will be longer special episodes. And so there'll be this mix and match of different approaches to the strategy, all about prescribing and all about focusing, innovating and elevating and empowering you, the listener, the patient, the practitioner. It's all about remembering your focus, remembering your purpose, remembering your calling, and accepting that. So if there's a calling on your life, if there's a discovery that you're in the wrong boat, don't act with fear. We weren't called to be governed by a state of fear. If you are, you need to make a change. You can jump out of the boat like I did without a life raft, without anything, and try to tread water and then find that boat come along. But find your boat, find your purpose, find your mission, and pursue it with everything you've got. And don't let people hold you back. Don't let people tell you no. Don't let people steer you wrong. So that is going to be prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear. There'll be some doctor stuff and there'll be some non-doctor stuff. And we're going to have times when we engage with you specifically because we want to engage with you, our listeners, our viewers, and see what you're saying, see what you want to hear about, because this is relationships. This is relationships. And I can't wait to see where we're going, because practicing to prescribing is going to be awesome. And following your calling always brings forth great fruit. So I'm in the right boat. I'm aligned with the people in that boat. I think we got more than rows now. I think we actually got a motor. And we're going to build some steam. We're going to build some momentum. So watch out. Look forward to joining you again on a future podcast. So that's what's coming, guys. That's what's coming. I just wanted to kind of express my heart. We'll get into some deep dives here on the next coming podcast. So it's great to be back. It's good to be talking to you. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Prescribe Podcast. All references supporting this episode can be found on the prescribe.com website. That's pre-scribe.com. To get your next dose of medical innovation, make sure you subscribe to Prescribe. We'll see you for your next refill.